Hi, this is John. I'm going to try and explain today who we are and why we are here. So first, there would be a God. At some point, long time ago, a God was created, the first conscious mind. That God would have lived a long time, had all kinds of experiences that we can't understand. It's one of those things that you just have to respect, that mind has more wisdom than we do, because a simple fact of the amount of time that it has lived. So at some point I believe that God is a creature that would have had both traits of female and male. It would have been combined, but would have been smart enough to recognize that these are opposing traits. And then God probably would have then labeled these traits as a female and a male. God would have created those, would have pulled the two traits out of itself and created man and woman. So God created man and woman, and man and woman were in the presence of God, but it wasn't going correct. There was problems. The first major problem that God could tell was that these creatures that God had created were very wise, very intelligent. But because they were so wise and intelligent, they started to question what God was, and to question, is God really as wise as God appears to be? And so this caused a lot of problems in this environment. So God had to come up with a way to educate the people, to let them educate themselves, so they could make advancements in time, and then we could move on. Because it's constantly about moving on. We're always moving forward. Life keeps going, and we're going to keep moving ahead. There's got to be constant advancements, and at some point things have to work together. Even when there's evil and good, it's somehow there has to be a harmony within these things. You can't get rid of one of them. That doesn't work. That's completely absurd to get rid of one of them and think that the one that's left standing is going to be any form of heaven or whatever. That's just absurd. There is a good and there's a bad. Things need to be dealt with. There are men, there are women. We need to learn how to work together. That's what all these lessons are about. So God created this environment and gave us a choice. This is the main thing. Every single human being that is alive on this planet or has ever lived on this planet volunteered to be here. You volunteered to be here. This is one of the reasons why me personally, even though I find people to be evil and I find them to do terrible things, I respect every single human being that has ever lived on this planet, because I know where we come from, and I know that they have made the choice to be here to better ourselves. So what happened is, the deal that God made for us was, God said, I'm going to create a thing called the cycle of life, and you can go and experience the cycle of life. What the cycle of life is going to be is, there's a number of different life forms on this planet. What we volunteered to do is to come and experience life and death and the progression of life and development until we progress up to be a human being where we're able to actually make the proper choices for ourselves now. So what God said is, what you're going to do is you're going to go and you have to give 999 deaths. You have to live as the beast of the land 999 times. You will live and die as the beast of the land before you get your opportunity to live as a human being. When you get this opportunity to live as a human being, now you have choices. And these are the choices that you're going to make. It's going to help develop you, because these are your choices. We have our subconscious, things that are going on inside of us that we're not aware of, that we have experienced in the past through all of these past lives. So now we're a human, we are able to make the right choices, and we make these choices. But now, and the other thing is, if you were a male back in the spirit world, when you were in the presence of God, when you volunteered to come to here, you would have volunteered to be a woman, because the whole process of volunteering to come down here is to experience the opposite of what you currently were. So it's ironic, because then somebody like in this world, somebody that was somebody like a Jeffrey Dahmer, in reality, Jeffrey Dahmer is probably the sweetest little girl that ever could live, and never could have do wrong, never could anything. So that little sweet girl volunteered to come down here to be the dirty scumbag bastard of Jeffrey Dahmer. But we also had to experience the reality that a Jeffrey Dahmer can exist. This is part of our psyche too. As humans, we have to understand that this is who we are. And that's why these things take place. Even though they're horrible, and we're going to punish the people for doing these crimes and things, we still need to understand too that this is part of the development for all of us. And we actually all are learning and benefiting even from these horrible events. So now, when you die, what happens is you don't go to heaven, you don't go to hell, you don't be judged. What happens is you will probably sit upon a panel of people, of advisors, and they will go back and you will go and experience what you have experienced. They will show it to you, you'll have conversations, and then what they will do is they will offer you. They will say, do you feel that you got the information? Do you feel that you got what you needed from this experience? And a lot of people, because you can see that the bad lives that most of the humans actually do live, most of the humans, and you got to understand that we're strong too in the beginning. And even though, like, people that commit suicide and stuff, the sad thing about that is you have to understand is you were strong enough to come here. You've already paid the price through living through the 999 deaths as a beast of the land. Now you're a human and you're just going to quit. You're not getting the experience that you came here to get. This is why you got to go through these things. There's more to learn, and you need to understand that you personally put yourself in this situation to obtain this knowledge. So when we die, then we go through this panel and they show us our experiences then, and we have to make our own choice at that time. Do we want to return? Do we feel that we've got what we needed, the lessons? Have we learned our lessons? Do we return back into the realm of God and live in that spirit world? Or do we return back into the realm of the beast and repeat the process? And what happens is, you've heard the term when people say, oh, that person, he's an old soul. He's an old soul. Well, we're all old souls. We all come from much greater time, long back. Time is a relative thing. We're dealing with time in a certain way here. It's not the same we would deal with it in our spirit world. So when you're an old soul, to me, that is referring to you keep going through this process. Because in actuality, another term for an old soul would be a fuck up. You're a fuck up. You keep fucking up. You don't get it right, but you have the courage to understand that you keep making mistakes. You volunteer to come back here. You keep going through the process, but the process is hard and you keep messing up. So that's who these old soul people are. And there's residual knowledge that is inherently gifted to these spirits. And so when you hear people talking about past lives, there's small pieces of truth in all of those things, but it's not the entire picture, and they don't really understand who they are or where they're coming from. So that's who we are, people. We have all volunteered to be here. There's no need for us to judge each other on real petty things like racisms and sexuality, things like that. We shouldn't judge you. We just understand that those are the realities of what we're dealing with. We're here to learn those experiences. And then later on, we will use those experiences to further develop our personal beings so that we can have a better understanding of God, so that we can all work for the betterment of all of it's not humankind, it would be like a spiritual nature, whatever that world is that was what we're a part of. We're trying to better that place and keep it moving forward, because it's a constant development and things are going to constantly keep moving forward, and there's a progression and there's more to learn. Even with God, there's always more to learn. Okay, so thank you very much for listening and have a great day.